Today I'm going to be showing you how to apply nail extension tips like so. Nail extension tips are a tip which doesn't cover the entire nail. So they're tips that have a well, that's the well area, that you apply the glue to. They're glued to the nail part way down, blended in so that they're totally invisible, so that you can then have your gel, your acrylic, your fiberglass or your silk, etc. applied over the top for strength. Once these tips are blended in correctly, you can see they should be invisible. You shouldn't be able to see the join at all. So you're going to go from something that looks like this on the nail to something that looks like so. And that's what we're going to try and achieve today. So the first thing you want to do is to select the correct nail tip. So I'm going to start off on the thumb here. I've already pre-prepped the nails with cuticle work. So to select a nail tip, you always make sure that the extension is a continuation on the side wall. If you have a gap, if you put a nail tip on, you've got a gap like so, it's too small. If you select a nail tip and it's half hanging over the client's skin, it's too big. You might have to do some filing because sometimes the tips don't perfectly fit every single client. You do have to file the side walls down. So the tip should fit perfectly either side. So I'm just going to assess. And what I'm actually going to do is this one is slightly too big, but the next size up is far too big. So I'm just going to file the side wall like so we get a really precise finish. Brilliant. What we're going to now do to the nail is we need to prep the nail before we apply the tip. So using a file, this is 180 grit. Just going to take the shine, that's all we want to do, take the shine off the natural nail. So I'm not pressing hard at all, I'm literally just taking the natural shine off the nail. And what this does is it causes little scratches on the nail for the glue to grip into and actually hold. If you don't do any prep work and you stick a nail tip to a clean, shiny nail, it's more likely to ping off because it hasn't got that gripping power. Once I've roughed filed, I'm then going to use some acetone. So I've got acetone on a cotton bud here, and I'm just going to do what we call dehydrate the nail. So I'm just wiping over the nail to get rid of any oil on the nail. Where I've been touching it with my fingers, I can put grease, like natural oils from my skin, onto the nail. I want to make sure it's nice and clean. We also need to do some prep work with the tip. You don't have to, you could glue the tip straight on like so and then go in and blend in. But to do less filing to the nail, I'm actually going to start to prep the tip. So what I do on the well part, the top part of the well, is again using my 180 grit file, gently file over that area, and we want to thin that down. If you don't do this before you glue the tip on, all of this filing has to be done once the tip is on the client's nails. And I just keep testing to see how bendy it is, because obviously you don't want to file any holes in it. So I'm quite happy with that. It's nice and bendy, ready to fit. So we're going to get our glue. You apply glue just to the well part of the nail, and I just spread it around the entire area. Making sure that you don't get any glue on yourself. I always direct the tip down so any glue will fall off. If you hold the tip the other way, you're going to end up with glue all over your fingers. And then what you want to do is when you glue the tip on your client's nail, you want to hold the tip just slightly above the nail. Drag down until the well hits the free edge, and then push down. That way it pushes any air bubbles. You don't have to hold it for too long. It pushes all air bubbles that way. If you were to just get a nail tip and glue straight down onto the client's nails, you're more than likely to get air bubbles. So you always start with the tip at a slightly sort of 90, less than that degree angle. Slide down till you hear like a little snap or a click. Push, and it will push all the air bubbles out. If you have an air bubble in the nail, it will be visible through your overlay. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to cut the nail to size. Just going to square the nails off. So file in one direction to square. Get rid of the sharp edges. And now we just need to blend that rest of that tip in. So with the nail file, I'm just going to gently file, concentrating on just this area. We don't want to file on the natural nail, so we're blending this tip into the nail. Again, stick with your 180 grit file. You shouldn't need to use anything any harsher than that. Make sure you really file down those sides. They need to be really precisely blended in. and then blend it in like so. Always assess, once you've got your tip on, the nail extension should be a continuation. So when you run that file down the side of the client's nail, your nail extension should follow. If you find that your nail file is doing this, the tip's too big. Or if you find that your file is sloping in, the tip is slightly too small. It should be a continuous straight line from top to bottom. And then you would literally go along and then fill all the others in so that they look like so.